So I've just finished working with a 14-year-old who's been groomed, working closely with his mother for the last 2 months. And this boy has just told me that he has been asked to groom 10 young people over the summer. Literally go out and groom 10 young people for a groomer this summer. And I'm thinking to myself, with so much lack of provision out there for young people this summer, our children are in danger of being groomed. This is ridiculous because provisions out there this summer are so expensive. And so this is just a warning video that grooming will be taking place this summer. It will be taking place this summer. And a lot of young people have been asked to recruit children over the summer because they're quite easy to find, there's nothing to do, and then get them into the grooming cycle. So this is just a warning and actually just a couple of tips for parents to look out for. Always be aware of your child's friends, especially over the summer when your child's saying they're going out and you don't know where they're going. Always check where they're going. Know where your child is going. Your child shouldn't be out there if they're underage and you don't know where they are. Always check your child's phone. This boy was groomed online. He built a friendship online and he was groomed online, and now he owes thousands of pounds in drug money. It's ridiculous. Always check your child's personal possessions. Always look through your child's room. So many parents out there just assume their children, the room's messy, I don't check my child's room. Check your child's room. Check in your child's trainers. That's a good place to hide drugs. Check if they got odor eaters in their trainers and they hide the substances underneath. They've been told to do that. Always check those things. And one thing in particular you have to do as a parent, you have to be aware as a parent yourself, because these groomers are often adults. They're often adults and they're grooming our young children. So if you take anything from this video, just be aware this summer because this is happening. This young boy has told me that it's happening. That he's been told to groom 10 young people this summer. And so for me, it's just a matter of being totally aware of where your child is. Make sure your child is safe. Try and get them into a provision and make sure your child survives the summer, which is supposed to be fun.
Welcome back. We had to play that. I saw that 2-minute clip, which was funny enough, was sent to me by our next guest, and I just felt that this is one topic we need to keep coming back to because it's a now topic revolving around young people, gang culture. We're talking about knife crime. We're talking about shootings. It's all out there, and it appears there's no real solution in the offing. But a few months ago, she kicked off a project tagged Listeners101, which basically was a platform for young disturbed people or young people who had issues they couldn't discuss freely with anybody, a hotline for them to call and speak with somebody. She's Tola Onigbanjo. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Multiple entrepreneur. So we'll just keep to the listeners for today.
Yes.
How have you been?
I've been good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that video.
You're welcome.
And we were at the, congrats again on the launch of Listeners101.
Thank you.
We were at the launch just a few, how long ago was that now?
It'll be a year next month.
A year?
Yes.
How time flies.
Yes.
What's the journey been like?
The journey has been a good one.
Okay.
We actually we're going to do like 1 year on.
Okay.
But we're not going to
That's
do
like
it
next month-ish.
Yeah, so we're not going to do it in a launch kind of
Okay,
effect
yeah.
because we want as many people. So we're going to do it on a Facebook Live on the listeners page,
Okay.
where we update everything, what's been going on and how it's been running and everything else. But yeah, I do have a lot of adults saying, so what's the age group? So that means I can't call in. And I'm like, no, you can't. It's for the young people.
And how young is young? What were your limits?
11 to 26.
11 to 26.
Yes.
Okay, and have you been getting those calls?
We've been getting those calls. We don't ask their age, so I don't even know.
If they fit into
they could even be younger. They could actually be older.
Or you can work it out from
Yes.
the convo.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your typical caller? Who's your typical caller? Someone in the gangs or someone?
I'd
or
say
male, female?
It's mostly female. A lot of
Mostly female?
Yes, mostly female
Okay.
use.
Is that because it's female run?
No, it's
or
not.
managed?
It's not.
Okay.
But I think a lot of it has to do with depression, mental health.
Okay, most of the conversations,
Yes, yeah. Suicide, definitely a big issue, but
Wow.
yeah. And then we've started to have a lot more people preferring to DM.
Okay.
So we're looking into building a Listeners101 app where they can actually talk via the app. So
Okay.
they
Well, I
can
guess it's the
name
age
it
group, and that's what they
yeah,
are kind of like familiar with.
So so we find that when they talk via DM, it's a lot longer than a phone call, because
Okay.
it's back and forth and
less stress.
It's less stress because we can, and also for us as well,
okay.
because when you're on the phone, you actually have to listen, so you cannot do anything but listen.
Okay.
But when it's a message, obviously you wait for their reply, so they can take a bit of time, so you can do stuff in between before their reply comes. But the only thing is, they can actually talk for long.
Okay. And how have you been able to fund it well? Because I do remember at that first meeting, part of what was, we're looking at how to fund this thing in terms of paying for calls. How's that been?
Well, we have, because we know young people are very into mobile phones, so it's the numbers are mobile numbers.
Okay.
And we also have one of the mobile numbers. We have pay as you go. One of the mobile numbers dedicated to it is one of my numbers, so it's a contract phone. So I've totally dedicated that number to the listeners, and obviously I pay my line rental.
Okay,
that helps. And then so we wanted something that we know that it couldn't fall apart, because if you're not funded, we don't want it to close, and that's why we went for the pay-as-you-go system, mobile phone, and that. So we know that obviously
so
there'll always be phone, and then now that a lot of them are responding via social media, and that for them it's free, because they all have that. So and then we have people fundraise for us. So when they fundraise, it will go on top up. And then obviously to update the site and things like that, we have to pay the design guy and things like that.
That's real cash money.
Yes. And then obviously we go to events as well. So we'll cover costs of, if somebody's going to an event to talk about Listeners101, we're able to fund their costs to travel there, and that kind of thing. So it goes.
What percentage of your calls are from London?
To be honest, I don't know, because we're strictly listeners. So we don't really ask them any information unless they volunteer it. So we don't ask them their name, we don't ask their age, we don't ask their sex or anything. We just listen, and that's how we just want it, so that they just know that it's totally confidential. They can even give us a fake name. We're more interested in them offloading and using the system, as opposed to, them feeling, oh, who is on the line and why do I have to give my... So we don't ask them questions, but they can volunteer it. So we might not know the caller's name, but we'll just listen to what they have to say.
And have you ever had the need to pass them on to perhaps to specialist agencies if they request?
Yes, we have a list on the website, and also we refer as well. We don't give advice, because we're not counselors like that. So that's why we refer them to the agencies that can deal with them professionally. So we suggest that, and when it's somebody that is, like a typical caller, they just feel down. They don't know why, and they can just burst out crying. They don't know why they're upset. They don't know what causes it, and it happens frequently. So the only suggestion we make is they should probably get a journal and write what happened at the time, when it happened, and what triggered it, and then go over it after a period of time and see if there's a pattern, see if there's something repetitive there, that kind of thing. So even when they go to their GP or whatever to explain, they have some kind of information that they can give them, because they've been recording it.
And on the side of the listeners, who is a typical listener, and I don't want to use the word counselor, but who is a typical listener personnel that would take those calls?
Anybody that can listen, and listen well, because you have to be able to listen, because you find sometimes they can be calling thinking, I'm going to call about this, but the problem is actually something else. So you just listen, and you try and listen to what they're saying, and try and read between the lines, So we try and get them to actively listen. So they could be saying things, and because we don't ask them for information, private information, it could be a case of, okay, how often do you feel that you cry in a month, or have you felt suicidal before? If they're going to tell us they're feeling suicidal, we'll ask, have you felt suicidal before, or is this the first time, that kind of thing, just to have a feel of, whether it's something repetitive going on with them, or whether it's just there and it's something there and then that's causing them to feel that way. And then we'll ask them, shall we get in touch with the authorities? But we do. If it's something that we feel that is going to cause them harm or to someone else, then it's on the website, and we do let them know.
The police,
Yes, and we do let them know at the beginning of any conversation, whether it's a social media or phone, that if they do reveal anything that we feel is going to bring harm to themselves or the police, or someone else, we will have to inform the authorities.
Have you had to do that at all?
We haven't had to do that,
so far,
thankfully.
Okay, touch wood. Yeah. Good. And most of the calls are from ladies, and centering around depression and suicide.
Yes, they've been suicidal in the past. They're not suicidal anymore, but they're depressed.
What are the typical reasons?
A lot of them don't know. That's the thing. They don't know. They'll tell you they don't know.
Social media?
I think we've had a couple social media, some to do with relationships, obviously boy relationship breakdown and things like that. Some they'll say they don't know. They absolutely don't know. They don't know. They just cry. They don't know. They're not arguing with anybody. They're not fighting with anybody. They just don't know. They just burst out crying and they just feel down and, that kind of thing.
And are you able to work out which kind of community they come from, whether they're black or African, or can you work that out?
Mostly, I would say from the calls, mostly black.
Okay. When
it's social media, we don't know because there's no picture sometimes, and then the name just looks. It's not even like a male name or a female name. It's just So we're not able to tell. But I think going by the conversation, sometimes you might have an indication that this kind of we do get a lot of self-harming. Former self-harmers, but they come, we had one that, that they came on social media in the DM and they said, they wish they'd found this page 30 minutes ago before they'd cut themselves. And went for a long conversation. They used to be suicidal in the past, and it was obviously their mum makes them feel that way. That it was that person's mum that makes them feel suicidal, leaving them out, preferring the siblings over them, and just feeling that they were worthless basically. But now they don't have that problem. They've learned to deal with it, but they still self-harm. And and at the end of the conversation, it was good because they said, right, the next time I feel that way, I'm going to come to this page first.
Okay.
And
so Listeners 101 has been doing good.
Yes, it has.
You're achieving all you set out to achieve.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Now, the video you sent was about grooming, and it was a gentleman in that video basically warning parents to look out, based on intelligence that these gangs are going out right now, urging young people to go and groom certain people now.
Yep.
For the layman out there, what's grooming? Is it combing your hair? What's grooming?
Grooming is it's an individual that can just seek to build an emotional connection with another individual. A lot of times it's younger. A lot of times it's younger people, but it can be an adult doing it. It can be an older person doing it. Sometimes you might not even know because a lot of it is done online as well. So you might not see the person physically. They can have an image there that they're pretending to be this person. And what they do is they seek to build a connection with the young person, gain their trust and things like that. And, so sometimes it can be in the form of playing games. Sometimes it can be just joining a friendship group on social media. So you're friends with one person that has other friends, then they create a WhatsApp group and, they now have a friendship group. You're talking and people in the group are just liking and just, commenting, oh, you seem really bubbly, really friendly. And especially with young people that want attention, they're so vulnerable and they can just target those ones so easily because all they have to do is just tell them all the things that they want to hear. Kind of like relationship. Once you get a guy telling you what you want to hear, that's it. He's kind of like, in a good place. So I think a lot of the times it's done that way. They build the trust of that person. And from there, it just goes into other things. It can be, let's meet up. There's a motive. Young people say, what's the motive for tomorrow? The motive can be, let's meet in Hyde Park. It can be, and then you start meeting, and then all of a sudden, you just start hearing, I think for parents, you have to be on the listen out because you'll find that, back in our days, we had friends and those friends were constant. Nowadays, they have so many, you're just hearing names that you've never heard before. And you're like,
who's this?
I've never heard you mention, oh, I'm going to so-and-so's party. Who's so-and-so? You know, it's like the groups, the friendship groups are just growing bigger and bigger. I mean, social media is good, but I say social media in regards to young people is one of the biggest evils out there.
Is it fair to say that grooming is perhaps the biggest recruitment point for gangs?
Absolutely. Not just even gangs, just for sexual exploitation, everything. Yeah. Grooming is how it's done now.
And in that video, he was basically saying that there's this concerted effort by these gangs to, and they've kind of like tasked some members, young members, to go and groom X amount of people in this holiday season. Now, if I'm just now trying to put this around Listeners 101 because you could have situations where some of these young people who kind of like wake up to that decides to call in. How would you deal with that?
Well, the number one thing is we'll tell them to tell an adult. You know, tell an adult, get help. Because we know a lot of them are not going to want to go to the police because they're going to feel, you know, like a lot of them, and there's a lot of them you find with young people, oh, I don't want to snitch, I don't want to be a snitch, you know, that kind of thing. They don't want that label. So we say tell an adult, and we're hoping that the adult will now be able to direct them to somebody that can help them. Because a lot of them, they're not into social services, they're not into, because they, you know, they have these negative perceptions of a lot of the government agencies as it is. So we tell them, tell an adult, and we're hoping that the adult will now be able to point them in the right direction, because some of them are so sucked in that sometimes they actually physically need to be moved out of the area. It's not just a case of just walking away from what they've entered into. Yeah, some of them out of the country, they have to. They have to. So I think for parents, we need to be a lot more aware.
What should the parents be looking out for, though?
Parents should be looking out for, I think, as a parent, you should not be afraid to go into your child's room and go and search the room and see. You'll be surprised what you come up with. You know, I had a parent the other day say that, you know, they don't really go through their child's stuff, but when they went through their child's stuff the other day, they found a whole list of bank card numbers, and on that list was 4 of that parent's bank card details: the long card number, expiry date, the number on the back. And you know, you could just phone and just use the card to just order and whatever, you know, and that's all they're going to ask you. Is it your name? Yep. What's this? And then you just pay, and they couldn't believe it. And the thing is, it's probably not even their child that's using it, but they've been asked to get it, because whoever's grooming them can just say, look, what you need to do is get us this, because then they'll now use it for fraud and everything else. And I think parents need to check through their children's stuff. Check through, because at the end of the day, it's not so much that they always want to do it, but now they're in a position to have to be forced to do it because the groomer has been taking care of them, has been enticing them with stuff. So kind of like, now you need to pay back. And they feel threatened because they do have to pay back, because they've been taking the nice things. So when you see your child with stuff, I mean, I know all the clothes that belong to my children, because I know what I buy.
And how much they are.
Yes, and I know where we shop.
Exactly.
So so if I see a Gucci belt or something turn up, excuse me, unless I went to Nigeria to get it in the market, we don't have that for the kids. Well, the younger kids anyway. And so I think they need to check and see if your child's coming in with something new. Even if you check their room, you'll notice things, unless you're not really hands-on or you don't remember. You know, because even if they come in and say, oh, so and so bought me this, well, why is so and so buying you that? You know, in this day and age where half of them don't even have their money, young people don't even have money like that. So
you think parents are doing enough of that though these days?
I personally don't think they are, because I think what happens is, and it's a lot of us, I think what happens is we wait until something's happened, and then all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, what should I do? What can I do? You know, that kind of thing. But I think it starts before that. No matter how trustworthy your child is, just look out for things, be vigilant, be observant. We have to, because the best of the best can be groomed, and you won't know it.
We have a new Prime Minister. So, if there was anything that I think because some say government has a role to play, some say families have a role to play. I think it's both ways.
Yeah.
And if there was anything that was to be done in terms of legislation, what would you be pushing for?
I think more money for organizations that are actively doing stuff.
Like Listeners 101.
Yeah, like Listeners 101. The good thing is we don't require much. Okay. But there are organizations that are doing a lot of work. And I think And I think it shouldn't be a case that they have to tediously be looking for funding and writing these funding applications, and because a lot of organizations close down because they don't get the funding, and it does cost them to run. We're not run out of an office or anything like that, so we don't have overheads and things. You know,
I can get bigger if the requisite funding
that's
is
it.
there. Yeah.
You know, but I had to think initially, what can I do that it's not going to, after a year, close down and not be available for these young people that I can afford if it has to be out of my own pocket, kind of thing. And so I think they need to make money available, because the work is a lot.
Imagine.
And not one person or one organization or 10 or 100 organizations can do it. The work is a lot.
Okay.
You know, and I think that would be number one. I think they need to distribute funds, especially to organizations that are doing stuff and producing results.
Okay. If anyone's watching right now and would like to be a member of the Listeners 101 and perhaps one of your agents that listen, what do they have to do?
They can send us an email, and what we do is obviously we require them to have a DBS, you know, even though it's just listening, but we still want to make sure that we know
so that's
who
statutory,
you
they
are.
must have a DBS.
Yes,
okay?
Definitely. And we do offer training as well. We offer scenarios, because one thing you've got to remember is there'll be some things that you will hear on the phone that can be traumatized. Yeah. They can be traumatic for even you, the listener.
Okay.
But what we do as well, we do have, even within the organization, we have our person that we can now go to offload after we've now listened to.
You have your listeners.
Ah, yes. It's so needed, because you'll hear something and, you know, like sometimes, I mean, it's like if you see a child drowning, you're going to want to jump in the water and save them, you know, kind of thing. But because of who we are and what we do, we're just there to listen. So sometimes you can hear something and think,
I need a listener too.
No, you can be thinking, I want to go and beat that uncle up. That is, you know, like, because you don't want to hear that somebody's been abused or, and, you know, and they're telling you it's, you know, you just think, you want to send some people to go and really beat that person up. Yes, you can't.
Okay.
So sometimes, you know, you even have to offload yourself as well, just to get that away.
Awesome. Okay. And how can they reach you?
info@thelisteners101.org.
Okay. Info at the listeners 101.org. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for coming. It's always a pleasure when you're here. Always a pleasure. And let us know exactly when it hits 1 year, so we can help you get the word out.
Definitely. Thank you.
My sister.
Thank you.
Nice one. And that was Tola Onigbanjo from the Listeners 101. Important topics to talk about all the time. We're going on a break right now. When we come back, we'll be meeting this young IT consultant who has this brilliant new product out there, especially for those in entertainment. Stay tuned.